Car Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened?
Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Altitude Sports Grill is where Albuquerque's sports fans won't miss a game. With locally crafted brews on tap and refreshingly crisp cocktails. Located in Hotel Cascada, Albuquerque residents find a staycation worth staying for. Catching Lobo sports, enjoying a beer on the beach, or wiping out, Hotel Cascada is home to your urban adventure. Affordable guest rooms, no-hassle water park parties, and much more.
Garden Sort's Team Sales is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Get into the game. Garden Schwartz Team Sales features fine products and apparel from Wilson, Schutt Sports, Speedline, and Russell Athletics. We offer custom embroidery and screen printing services for all of your school or club needs, from team uniforms to school leather jackets. Specializing in all sports and serving all communities, from big schools to small schools, from up north to down south, or all points in between. Garden Schwartz Team Sales. For great prices, friendly staff, and quality products, call Garden Schwartz Team Sales today at 1-800-880-7767. That's 1-800-880-7767. Since 1939, Garden Schwartz Team Sales is a proud supporter of New Mexico youth athletics.
Hoops New Mexico Basketball Courts is coming to Albuquerque soon. 10 full basketball courts and a whole lot more. For more information, contact Dan Serrano at hoopsnm@aybl.com.
Don't forget, every Proview Network sporting event is on sale at our DVD store. Go to www.proviewNetworks.com to buy your DVD today.
Welcome everybody to the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Coletti, joined by Ed Nunez. Alden Iowani, our director, here as always this week. And it is a blazing summer day. It's a blazing summer week, and not a lot going on in terms of local yet, but that's subject to change, and that's going to change very quickly. We bring in Ed Nunez, and I'll tell you what, we talk about this every year that we've been doing the show, Ed. This time of year, well, not a lot going on. The next thing you know, they're getting into training camps for football, and the season starts.
Well, I always say that after the NBA Finals, which were won in spectacular fashion by Golden State, that for me, it's kind of the worst time of year for sports. I watch some baseball. I do watch it, some. I'm not much of a tennis guy or golf guy or, race car driving guy as far as watching that on TV. So I'm like you. I'm already looking forward. I'm a big Dallas Cowboy fan. I'm already reading the Dallas Cowboy reports every day from, the OTAs,
right.
As far as who's shining. Funny thing is, you're going to laugh about this. So I used to get Dallas Cowboy Weekly for years. Then it became the Dallas Cowboy Star magazine.
Mm-hmm.
They discontinued that in February. I was very upset. I really was, because I look forward to that. I look forward to the breakdown about the draft, the schedule, things like that. I read it cover to cover. I'm an avid reader. I'm a readaholic. So now I got to get my reports online about Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys. So I think you're right as far as sports, but baseball. There's still some great things going on in baseball. Clayton Kershaw pitched, a great game, and the Dodgers might have another Rookie of the Year candidate. The Yankees have Aaron Judge, that 6'6" phenom, big 6'6", 270, hitting tape measure home runs. So there's still some great things going on in Major League Baseball that I like to watch. I'm probably not a guy that's going to sit there and watch successive games after successive games. Well, back in the day when the Braves were on WTBS with Skip
Carey.
Skip Carey. God, I love Skip Carey.
Good old days.
Yes, I used to love to watch them. I loved it. And the Cubs with Harry Carey and Steve Stone. I used to, Harry Carey was such a great broadcaster. When it looks like it is home run. I don't know how you could forget that. I mean, right. So I'm not the biggest baseball guy, but I'm a sports person, so I do keep up as much as I can with the standings at least once a week to see who's in first, who's in fifth, things like that. So I think you're right, Scott. Right now, this time of year, we're just kind of looking forward to what's next.
It's funny you bring up back in the day. You mentioned the Dallas Cowboys Weekly. Once upon a time, I worked for the Sports Fan Radio Network doing a weekend call-in show, did a 5-hour talk show, and every Sunday we would have the chief editor of the Dallas Cowboys Weekly on with us. Now,
I'm trying to think who that guy was.
For the life of me, I can't think of his name. And I remember the interviews because he would always come on and preface, "It's not Dallas, it's Dallas." And
that's funny.
And we used to talk about some good stuff because back in those days, that's when they were really, really good.
Right.
They had a little bit of controversy going on. Jerry Jones was meddling as he always does, but they were winning, and they were winning Super Bowls at the time. So, that's part of the reason why we had him on every week, because they were the flavor of the week back in those days.
Well, it's funny because here in this town, we didn't get a whole bunch of pro football exposure except the Dallas Cowboys or Denver Broncos. Now, there's people in town that hate them both, but really in this town here, it's either you're a Dallas Cowboy fan or Denver, and there's some Raider and Steeler fans here too. So strong bases for both fan base of the Raiders and Steelers. But it's Dallas or Denver really that they play this year. I think they play the second game at Denver. We looked into tickets. I wanted to go up there. Tickets were astronomical. I'm not going to that game. I remember going to a game a couple years ago. I took my son to go see the Chiefs and the Broncos. My son is a Bronco fan. And I wore my Cowboy stuff, but they weren't playing Dallas that day. A couple of people had some things to say, man, and I didn't think they would because they weren't really playing Dallas. But a couple people said, Dallas isn't very good. I'll just say that's what they said, but they didn't say that. Right. So it's kind of funny to me. Bronco fans, any fans of any fan base, I remember sitting with my son. It was so cold that day, and we were prepared. We had the layers of clothing, even stuff for our feet. It was freezing. I'm not kidding you. But I remember hearing a couple rows back about, these fans were talking about these receivers, where they live, where they're from, they played in high school, and I'm thinking, man, I know I'm a fanatic. These people are on another level. I mean, they love their Broncos. There's no question. So when you live in that town, they know everything there is to know about that player, where he lives, where he came from, how many catches he had in high school. It was unbelievable to me because, like I said, I think of myself as a fanatic of the Dallas Cowboys. I can name stats, players from years ago. These people, like I said, a couple rows back, I'm like, wow. I'm just kind of got my ear bent because when you're a sports guy too. Whenever you're somewhere else, you're like, what are these people thinking? What's the culture like? Right. So when I heard that, I'm like, man, I'm no comparison. And I think I'm a huge fan, and I am. But these people here were on a totally different level. They really were. Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I love that. We should talk more about that down the road because it is amazing. You go to different markets, you go to different places. I mean, just me traveling with UNM when I was the voice of Lobos, and even filling in for the Lobo games this year, going to Dallas, going to Colorado Springs, getting to see the different cultures, different fan bases. It's pretty in Texas Tech. It's pretty amazing to see all the differences in the levels of fanatics, if you will.
Well, you think of the things that, even Arkansas, the pig suey cheer that they have, and I used to wonder, I used to think about that. What are they saying? And, they have their own culture. They're rabid football fans. So over here, we're rabid basketball fans. The Pit,
right.
although I'll say this, the Pit has lost some of its strength, due to the taken out of the seats. It's not the same Pit, but it's still a strong place. But back in the day, when those seats were not media seats and the students had all those, those seats there, it was an unbelievable. You saw some Pit games. What Dave
right.
Bliss, Coach Bliss always called them Pit games. Before you came.
Well, Scott Dickerson would always call them Pit games too. In fact, my first year, which was the last year of the 18,000 plus, they played Utah. One of the games that solidified by winning the three-way tie for first place
right.
that year. And Scott Dickerson, before that game, said, "This is going to be your first actual Pit game." There had been some other ones that were close, but he said, "This is, this is Utah. This is a huge rivalry. This is going to be a Pit game." And I'll never forget, about midway through, Lobos went on a run, place went berserk. And he said, "Take off your headset." So we're taking off the headsets. We're screaming at each other, and we couldn't hear each other.
And you're right next to each other.
That's how loud it was.
You're right next to each other.
He wanted to show me how loud it was. That was the first time that I got the full brunt. I got a lot of great Pit games, but that was the Pit game that sticks out in my mind, because I'll never forget taking off the headset, and we're screaming at each other. And we could not hear a word that we were saying.
Wow, and
that was amazing.
I remember that against when they played Georgetown in 1985, and hopefully in a couple weeks we'll have former University of New Mexico guard Kelvin Scarborough, who was who played in that game, to talk to us about what the Pit was like that night. But I remember, again hearing the magic. It's a magical place. It really is. You go back to some of those old pictures when they were building it in the ground. I remember an old truck by there, pictures of the Pit being built. And that place is, again, magical. Paul Weir's about to find out. Hopefully, again, some of the fan base has vacated it for now because they're not winning. Remember, we said this, though, Lobo basketball is first, second, third. It still is. Coach Weir's going to find that out. And, we had him on about 2 months ago, and Coach Weir's a great guy. There's some transfers that have left, and he's going to get his own guys in here. And I think he's going to do a great job there and restore some of that Pit magic that they've seemed to have lost the last couple of years.
I'm going to tell you one of the things that I kind of agree and kind of don't agree with in the lost fan base. I mean, the numbers aren't there as far as, you're looking at, 11, maybe 12,000 as opposed to 15,000 for an average. What I noticed when I was at UNM, the loud days, everyone was on their feet the whole time. Everyone was engaged in the game the whole time. And then, we'd go to other places. BYU comes to mind. San Diego State, places that I hate to admit. Probably BYU the most, because out of 20,000, they had about 6,000 students. And those people, they opened the door at 5 o'clock for a 7:30 game. Students would rush, and all of a sudden you'd see one entire side fill within maybe 10 minutes, if not 5. And those people were chanting the minute they got in. I mean, this is when the teams are in the locker room. This is before they're even dressed. This is like right when we got there. And that's one of the things I never got the feeling about the Pit is, people got loud when the game was on the line. And, I think the biggest difference now is when I was there, if the Lobos were down, that's when the fans would get the loudest because they would urge the team back into the game. It seems like they don't do it as much. And people that I talk to that have been longtime season ticket holders, that's the thing that they point out and say, when the team needs them, the fans are quiet now, where once upon a time, that's when they went berserk. If they're down by 10 against San Diego State, the place went nuts, not when they were winning.
No, you're right, because if they went on a 4-0 run or 6-0 run while they were down by 10, holy cow, hang on to your hats, man. You really, because you just hear it. Everybody start rising up. If you stood.
And then from that point on, the fans never sat down.
No, and sometimes it'd get irritating because you want to sit down, but you just got to stand up. That's the way it was. So
but
yes.
I've been to places where where the entire fan base stands up the whole game. And it's like, wow, this is cool. Having said that, those fans aren't nearly as loud as what I've experienced here. It's a weird dynamic where other fans may do more things that you would think make them louder. But in my opinion, the Pit has always been the loudest venue outside of the old Chicago Stadium that I've ever been at.
Wow, you know,
bar none. I've been to Kansas, I've been to BYU, I've been to, you know, San Diego State. I've been to all these places. Overall, for the experience, the crowd is loud, but you know, it's the dead spots that I think have occurred recently, and I think that's what needs to go away in the Paul Weir era.
That's funny that, you know, I want to get to your comment about the Pit, but you mentioned drafty old Chicago Stadium. When I think of Chicago Stadium, I think of Tom Borwinkle, Norm Van Leer, Chet Walker,
funny that you mentioned
Bob
that
Love.
Because I was young when the Lakers played the Bulls every year in the playoffs, and back in those days they didn't have a lot of TV games, and most of the TV games were against the Bulls. So I got to see the Bulls with Tom Borwinkle.
I'll tell you what, man. You know what? Norm Van Leer, Jerry Sloan. People forget how tough Jerry Sloan was as a player.
Well, people forget how good Tom Borwinkle was.
Tom Borwinkle was tough.
He was.
You know, a seasoned, crafty veteran, not a jumper or leaper, just knew how to play. You know, I think of him and Billy Pulse, the Whopper. You know, they used to play for.
I'd watch him go up against Wilt Chamberlain. I was like, wow, that guy's good.
Yeah, you're talking about Wilt, who's of course one of the greatest players that ever played. But
Borwinkle could play with him.
No, you know what? Dick Motta, the coach of the Bulls, you know, the old Chicago Bulls. So when I think of that, I remember I'm a huge, you know, I'll tell you what, Chet Walker and Bob Love was tough. People forget how good Bob Love was. Rodman had to wear number 91 when he played for the Bulls because Bob Love, they had retired Bob Love's number, and people forget, who's Bob Love? Well, if you watch the NBA in the 70s,
one of the best Bulls.
Man, Bob Love was
era.
Nice. He really was. But you know, going back to the moments of the Pit, you know what? I just hope we get him back because it was so taken for granted that the Pit was going to be the loudest, the most attended, the fans were going to. And right now, you know what set in is apathy. It set in during the Richie McKay era when, you know, there was 6,000 to 7,000. Maybe they announced crowd of 10,000, really more like 6,000 to 7,000.
Right.
So hopefully Coach Weir gets that back because I think we took a lot of that, the fan base and the noise that you mentioned, the power of the Pit. I think we took that for granted, and right now it's not there.
And I think the thing, like I said, the thing that in my mind needs to change the most, and I think it can immediately because of it wasn't that long ago when it was that way. Like I said, back when I was there, the crowd got into the game, you know, from when they came down the ramp. They came down the ramp for warm-ups. Place went nuts. I mean, you could feel the buzz, you could feel the electricity, but now it's like the fans cheer when they're winning and they kind of go away when they're losing, whereas before they're losing, that's when the fans, hey, come on, we can't lose.
You kind of wonder.
That's when they really urged on the team, and we'll get back more into that out of the break. But Alden, our fine director, has told us it's time to break, so we will take a timeout here on the Sports Desk.
That's dangerous right there. Beautiful pass ahead, but Pavlik comes out. His opportunity. He's taking all of them. For both Pavlik's out. 100, but he was at Star Brothers before the contest. A deflection. Yep. There's Goss and Pavlik. Lawrence wants to make that run. Oh, there's the goal. Good look here. Luke, yeah, Lawrence slots it in. Celine took it away nicely. Oh, what a nutmeg there. Here comes Lawrence on a run. He's got a lot of options. He's going to take the shot. Goal from Clancy. Well, maybe not. We might get another run. Tommy Ramos.
The Barley Room, proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering. Let us bring our kitchen to you.
Hey Lobo fans, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Samantha.
Jaguar Land Rover Albuquerque has been a family-owned business since 1988. The 2017 Jaguar F-Pace has been named the winner of the 2017 World Car of the Year and World Car Design of the Year.
Land Rover's signature terrain response system is flawless against any curveball New Mexico weather can throw at you.
We have a class-leading extended warranty on all Jags and Land Rovers and one of the greatest pre-owned inventories in the state of New Mexico.
Call 505-797-3600 to schedule a test drive.
Terry Cosper Insurance Agency is a proud partner with Proview Networks and a proud supporter of New Mexico high school athletics. Terry's been a local farmer's agent for over 20 years for auto, home, life, and business insurance. Just like high school sports are important, so are teen drivers. For more information, call Terry or one of his licensed staff members at 898-5556. Quotes are available for you. Visit the Frontier Restaurant. Due to heavy construction on Central, take lead or coal coming north or south. The Frontier Restaurant. Get your Frontier fix on. Gecko's Bar and Tapas, a proud supporter of Proview Networks. It's been a fan favorite spot for food lovers and sports fans. With not one, but two great locations, including outdoor patio, an atmosphere you won't want to miss. Gecko's, off Academy and in Nob Hill. Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
And we are back here on the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Colletti along with Ed Nunez. We're talking a wide gamut of things. Want to finish our thought on the Lobos, the Lobo fan base, the pit, and everything going on. I know, Paul Weir, one of the things that we can also add, he was named the Canadian Junior National Team coach, and, that brought up a little bit of buzz on whether he should be doing that he's in recruiting and all that stuff. But, it's that time of year that a lot of coaches do that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to open up a lot of avenues for recruiting by doing this.
I think you're right. There's networking that's going to happen when
a lot of networking.
When he's doing that. And, I think the thing was, we talked about this last week with Doris Gary, and I've watched that interview several times. And, and I've seen Doris a couple of times that he comes and work out where I work at. And that is just one guy. I don't know him as well as you, not near as well. But I have just the utmost respect for him as a person, as a man, as a father. He's not just a basketball star and basketball player that comes in and thinks, I'm Doris Gary and you're not. He has respect for other people. His wife respects people. His kids, I'm sure, are all respectable. He showed me, his wife showed me a picture of them. Great looking kids. So, back to Coach Weir, I just had to mention Doris because Doris is just, I think, a special person. Besides being a special basketball player, he's a special man. Really like him a lot. Every time I see him, it's just like, what's up? What's going on, man? How you doing? Yep. Every time he comes by, comes in the office, he shakes your hand, gives you eye contact. So I'm glad we had him on. I thought that was a very good interview. But back to Coach Weir, I think that, we mentioned this last week. We didn't get into it too much. So, you got the 2 recent transfers, Damian. I was disappointed with Damian Jefferson, not with him as a person. Disappointed that he's leaving. His father, you weren't here when his father was here, looks just like him. Everett Highway Jefferson was his nickname, Highway. Man, let me tell you something. They're splitting images of each other. They really are. Now, I think Everett Jefferson averaged 17 points when he played here. Now, I don't know I like the potential of Damian Jefferson. He's a slasher. He's athletic. I really thought, I was disappointed. And then Jordan Hunter also announcing his transfer last week. But I think you and I talked about it, and Coach Weir, he mentioned this. This is, and I think the thing that Doris Gary brought up, that Coach Neal and Coach Alford had recruited him since he was in 7th grade. He's familiar with them. They know him almost family. If you've recruited someone since 7th grade, you're seeing them, you're probably going to the house, you're talking to the parents. This is nothing against Coach Weir and the current players at all. I'm sure he came in, had meetings with them, but they don't know him. They don't know him at all. They don't. And so and it was kind of interesting to me when he said about Jordan Hunter that Jordan Hunter was quoted in the paper as saying they kind of made it known to him that it would probably be better if he left. Okay, so you can look at it both, either way. Coach Weir's being honest. At least the way I look at it now. He's got a pass right now. He's 0-0.
Right.
We liked him enough. Now, it's good to be a good guy. I think, you got to win. We know that. But I think for people that are wondering, and I wonder too, and I know you did too, when you see 6 transfers, you're like, what's going on? He's going to turn the roster over anyway. He's going to do it. Right. Better to do it now to get his guys in now than wait till after the year and carve it up then.
See, that's a catch-22 because you're absolutely right. Coaches do that. They don't talk about it. I mean, Alford did it. People don't talk about that. It happened here. But, this is more of the extreme. You look at UNLV last year, what happened there. That's what the Lobos are kind of going through now. I don't think a lot of Lobo fans thought that it was going to be that situation, but it's gotten even worse now than anyone imagined. Now, having said that, Coach Weir, and we talked about this with DeReese, we talked about this amongst ourselves a couple of weeks ago when we had Coach Weir on, he knows how to recruit to the state of New Mexico. He knows how to get people from out of town to Las Cruces. If he can do that, he certainly can get people here to Albuquerque. So he's already got that advantage that he knows how to recruit to this state. A lot of coaches, that's what they have to learn. He's got that. So the problem that he has is, 4 scholarships now that are open? Right. He's got to fill those, but I hear people saying, well, don't rush. You don't need to do that. And, and I don't know what his time frame is. I don't know. And we don't know what he's got in the back of his mind. He might have 4 players that he's been sitting on. Mm-hmm. We have no idea because he's been recruiting since he was at NMSU. I mean, some people are saying, well, don't bring NMSU players. Well, if they're good enough, bring them in. I mean, if they want to play, bring them in, and if they can play. But the whole thing is they got to fit into this system. The Mountain West, even though it's been down the last few years, it's still a better conference, stronger conference, I should say, than the WAC. So it's you gotta bring in a little better player. But at the same time, I still have confidence that he's got players kind of in reserve, and all of a sudden we're going to find out about it. Oh, now we know what he's doing. Because that's the whole problem with coaching. Everyone here in town, everyone in other places thinks they know what's going on everywhere. But it's all behind the scenes, and they're not going to, Paul Weir's very good at kind of, telling you when the time is right and not leaking things out.
No, he's very good at that, and I think you might be, he's against the recruiting wall. Let's face it, the timing, and everybody is kind of committed. What's left out there, but maybe Coach Weir has a better idea than we do. So again, I go back to what he said.
Well, there's a lot of graduate transfers out there. I'm sure there's a lot of junior college transfers out there. Some coaches like going the junior college route. Some coaches don't. I think he's kind of on the fence, and if he needs to, he'll do that, but I'm not sure, if he's heavy into the junior college transfer, but might have to be.
In this case here, I think he's going to have to be. Mm-hmm. I go back to what he said on the show. UNM was ranked 319 out of 356 Division I three-point shooting teams. So he definitely wants to change that atmosphere as far as his program goes. So he's going to bring in players that fit that mold. He wants to stretch. He wants to run. He wants guys that can challenge and attack the rim. I was kind of surprised with Jefferson because I think Damian Jefferson fits that mold.
A lot of people were surprised about that.
But you know what? Maybe Damian Jefferson. He said he talked with his parents. So he talked with Everett Jefferson, his father, and his mother, and he felt like going forward, this wasn't. And of course, we're disappointed. He showed some flashes here. He did. I looked at him like, and it reminded me of his dad. His dad was a heck of a player here, and so. But Coach Weir, again, being the assistant coach with Canada, the Canadian team, I don't think expands your horizon and network. I don't think that ever hurts because then people say, well, I got this guy that you might be interested in, or this guy. I think when it's all said and done, let's face this fact, Scott. It may not be what you want or I want or Lobo fans are, up in arms. It's going to be what Coach Weir wants, though. Coach Weir's going to get the players maybe that he wants that fits his system.
I think it's more he's going to get the players that fit his system as opposed to what he wants, because what he wants is for players to fit in his system. I think the biggest roadblock that no one talks about, and I was just thinking about it while you were talking just now, is the fact that the one difference maybe between NMSU and New Mexico is you've got a track record that both Coach Alford and Coach Neal built here with the student athlete. And basically, you go in when I was talking about the junior college ranks, you got to make sure, A, that the player qualifies. If the player doesn't qualify, then it's kind of a moot point because he's not going to be able to play anyway. And you got to find that right academic fit on top of the player fit.
You know what? You're so right, because I've seen coaches, and I'll go back to Neil McCarthy, the former New Mexico State coach who rated the JC ranks, and then later had some issues. There was some transcript or eligibility issues, and the Aggies had to forfeit some wins, if I'm right.
And that's not that's not a situation that's foreign to every basketball program. So, you've gone, and when Coach Weir was hired, that's one of the things that was kind of thrown at him. Hey, we got a high track record with APR and all that stuff, and we want to keep it that way. So he's got to get not only players that fit in his system, but fit in the academic system for UNM.
You know what? There's a lot of things to think about. It's not. You're right, and you know.
So
what?
It's not easy.
No, it's
not just let's get the best basketball player here, sign a scholarship.
No, you're right, because not only do they have to fit in on the floor. What about in the community? What about in the classroom?
Right.
Because the classroom, believe me, it's going to matter to Coach Weir or any program. You have to keep these guys eligible and graduate them, and you want to have a good standing and ranking as far as your program goes. So you're right. So that's the other part, the other component that people don't think about. And you know that because you've covered a lot of programs. You know what it takes. So it's not as if you just say, well, this guy's available, let's go get him.
Right.
All those other things that you mentioned have to be considered.
Let's look at the NBA Finals. You mentioned Golden State winning a little while ago. They beat Cleveland. I don't think a lot of people were surprised there, but I think a lot of people are surprised now. Cleveland lets their GM go. That was just announced. LeBron is shopping around. Thought is maybe he'll go to either the Clippers or the Lakers, which means what's he going to do? Be a lame duck for a year? I mean, it seems like there's a lot more moving parts with the draft coming up this year than there has been probably in the last 10, 15 years in the NBA.
You know what,
and
Mike?
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Okay, a couple of things here. Mike Adams and I talked about this on 610 on Saturday at length. Now, we talked about super teams. Now, LeBron isn't the one that started it. He's not. If you go back and you and I talked about the Lakers, West, Wilt, and Baylor. That was a super team that won one championship, and Baylor retired before the 72 season. They lost three. They lost to the Celtics, and they lost to the Knicks in 70. So, that was a super team. Nobody could question that was a super team.
Right.
But I think that in the era of the modern media, Twitter, Snapchat, the social media, LeBron's announcement that I'm going.
That was also, by the way, not to interrupt, but by the way, that was back in the years before free agency. So for Wilt to go to the Lakers, they had to trade for him.
Right, and that's a good point. And they did. They traded some assets.
And I bring that up because kids and people nowadays may not realize that. Because everyone knows about the free agency. But back then,
they had to trade
if you got someone, you had to trade them, which meant that for Wilt, you had to trade 3 players to get 1.
And they did. And but what looks like, he didn't start it, though. LeBron didn't start it. But his announcement, I'm going to take my talents to Miami. We're going to win 6, 7, 8 championships. People kind of tend to forget. They think he's the one that he didn't. He didn't start that. Pierce, Garnett, Ray Allen with the Celtics. That was a super team. Kobe and Shaq. With the Lakers.
People forget that when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar went from Milwaukee to the Lakers, where he had won a NBA championship with Milwaukee, the Lakers sucked for a while.
You know what? I didn't
forget that.
I didn't. You know, but you're right. Now he's in the MVP 3 out of the 4 years.
Right.
You know, but he's got Don Chaney.
But in his first couple of years,
they weren't very good.
He was like the big star, and they had a bunch of guys, and then they kind of had to trade to build it up.
Well, think about who they traded for him. You know, they had to trade the rights to Junior Bridgman, Dave Myers, and Brian Winters.
Right.
3 players and a draft pick for Kareem.
Yeah.
So, you know, at that time they were surrounded with Corky Calhoun, Earl Tatum, Tom Abernathy. They're not going to win any. You remember Corky Calhoun?
He was actually one of my favorite players.
They're not going to win any titles with Corky Calhoun.
No.
So, and I'll say this too.
No, he was like one of those ultimate role players.
Corky Calhoun was tough, but he's not a star.
He was a good player, but he wasn't a star. But he was one of my favorites.
I'll say this: in 1979 and 1980, you know, when they draft Magic, we talked about this last week. This is a spiritless Los Angeles
I haven't heard that name, by the way, in years.
Oh, you'd have to be a deep NBA fan to know who Corky Calhoun was. But when they get Magic, then Magic has all this spirit and competitiveness that I think brings the fire out in the rest of the Lakers. Right. Let's face it, Kareem wasn't the most spirited, agreeable guy. He wanted to be motivated, and he said this, when I want to be motivated. He wasn't into all that locker room fire and speech and brimstone. That wasn't him. But going back to your point about super teams, I'm sorry, Scott, I'm getting sidetracked because I'm such a big NBA fan. But going back to this, so you mentioned LeBron, and that's a very good question, because there has been mention. Is he going to the Clippers or the Lakers next year? Is he just going to stay for 1 year and then bolts? And is Paul George coming to the Cavaliers to build a team to challenge Golden State? Is Jimmy Butler coming? So I think in the next 2 days before the draft, you might see a couple of trades here and there, because Cleveland, look, right now, Golden State, Mike and I talked about this on Saturday at length. Golden State right now, in the era of the modern three-point shooting, I don't see anybody beating them. I don't. And this goes back to and I'm a big Laker fan. I mean the 87 Lakers, the 86 Celtics, the 98 Bulls. Now, are we going, what rules are we using? Hand checking, no hand checking? If it's in the modern rules, they spread the floor so well. They make great decisions. They also defend. People forget that they defend. There's just, you know, again, they demoralize you defensively. You might be down by 2 points. All of a sudden they go on a 15-2 run. They demoralize you. They do. They take the wind out of your sails. It's not as if Cleveland, they played good defense, hedging, talking, communicating. You know what? When Curry goes crazy and then Durant's driving, then Durant's a very willing passer. His game improved with these guys.
You brought up the hand checking, which brings up something, because a lot of people bring up, well, this team against this team. You know, you can't really compare eras, obviously, but I look at the Showtime Lakers with Magic, Kareem, and those guys, Michael Cooper.
Right.
If you took away the hand checking, that team would beat Golden State probably pretty soundly.
You know what?
You know why I say that? Because the only time that they lost in the finals was to Boston, who hand-checked the crap out of them, and Detroit, who did the same, who roughed them up.
Well,
you open it up to today's rules, that team would average 130 points a game. I guarantee you. Because they were already averaging like 110 as it was.
Well, they ran like crazy. You know, I'll still say this.
But the teams that slowed them down did it with the hand check and put the body on them, rules that you can't do in this day and age.
We'll go back to the Lakers versus Celtics bitter enemies. I don't know, best of enemies. I don't know if you saw that. So you go back in '84 when the Lakers are just running away with that series. You know, they really are fast breaking to death.
Yeah, I covered that series, and Dennis Johnson went off in game number 4 and turned that game winner around.
Well, really turned it around was when Rambis goes up.
He had a game winner, but he had a great game.
Yeah, defensively also.
He had a great game scoring. He was a pest defensively. And I remember where I was at the Forum during that game. Because that one, you know, everyone was thinking, oh, yeah, this is going to set the Lakers up to win it. And
what changed the physical sense of it was when McHale clotheslined Rambis. All of a sudden, the Lakers aren't running that fast break with just, you know, unbridled enthusiasm. All of a sudden, they're kind of like, you know, then, and it said this in the ESPN 30 for 30, and believe me, 30 years later, I'm still mad about that series. Still upset. They never should have lost that. But then all of a sudden, Abdul-Jabbar is getting mad at Larry Bird, you know, and he never got mad. So Cedric Maxwell said, we know we had them.
They got in their head.
When we got in the head of the intellectual.
I was there, and you could see it. You could see it live. They got in their head. I mean, the mindset changed. All of a sudden, the Celtics were nothing but confidence, and the Lakers were playing chippy.
Well, it's funny because ML Carr, you know, who's really, he had some good seasons with the St. Louis Spirits of the ABA. I know you remember that. ML, right. So this is going back, you know, only real.
Yeah, I remember, here's a name in the past that I was thinking of because I read his book when I was in school, Connie Hawkins.
Oh man,
Former Laker. I remember him, but when I read his book, I learned all about his ABA and all about his tough upbringing and everything, and
But anyway, going back to ML Carr, you probably didn't get to see it, but you'd love to see this best of enemies. ML Carr, who was a towel waver, bench rider, he's still saying 30 years later, I'm glad we won, and I hope Kareem and Magic are drowning in that. I'm still upset. I'm like, you didn't even play, man. You scored 2 points the whole series. But you know what he did? He got in their head. He's telling them from the bench, you choked, you ain't no good. He got in their head. He got in their head.
And he was the other guy who was a master at hand checking.
Very much so.
On his defense, that's what he did. He was a hand checker. We'll take a break. We'll talk more here on the Sports Desk.
Sure, you could get him a new car. You could also light a pile of money on fire. So maintaining this old car is your best option. Keep it running longer, stronger, with quality parts and a whole lot of Napa know-how.
For 55 years, people have bought trucks from Tillery in Los Lunas. We have a great selection of vehicles, the quality service department, and some of the best deals in the state. But most importantly, we found people prefer to buy trucks from people who actually drive trucks.
Tillery is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network. Locally owned and operated, located in Los Lunas, right off I-25, exit 203.
Folks, there's no other way but to be all in. Either he's Lord of all or he is not Lord at all. And you can experience the real and authentic, true life change that only God can provide to humanity. See, when we truly encounter Jesus and purpose to know him and follow his teachings, #life change will occur.
I am never getting married. Never. Guaranteed.
You picked a beautiful ring.
Thank you. We're never having kids.
I love it here.
We are never moving to the suburbs. We are never getting one of those. We're never having another kid.
I'm pregnant.
I'm never letting go.
For all the nevers in life, talk to State Farm agent Michelle Rudolph or Marty Size in Albuquerque.
And we are back here on the Sports Desk. Scott Galletti along with Ed Nunez. Alden Iowani, our fine director, do-it-all guy here at Proview. He's making sure that we are on the air. And Ed, just to close what we were talking about with the NBA, the super team, I could be wrong, but in my opinion, the super team kind of started when Dwayne Wade was recruiting LeBron James to go to Miami.
Well, again, we mentioned,
because that was free agency super teams.
Right. Okay. Then that's true. That's true because you had Jordan and Pippen who were both, drafted by.
Because back in the day, the
Bulls.
super team, you had to do something to get a super team. You had to give up to get something.
And there was such fanfare when that started. The announcement. I watched it there, and I remember Wade, welcoming Bosh and LeBron James, and the press conference afterward when LeBron said, and he put off a lot of people when he said it. 6, 7, 8 championships. I'll tell you what, I was so hacked off at that guy for 2 years, I really didn't like him. But then, you know what? When I saw him win a championship with Miami, you can say whatever you want, and people do. And Mike Adams and I talk about it all the time. There's a lot of people that I love LeBron's talent. Who could not love the talent?
Right.
You can say whatever you want, again, like I said, and people criticize him, and a lot of it has nothing to do with his NBA talent. Nothing to do with it at all. We can honestly say I've watched the NBA since 1972. He's one of the greatest I've ever seen. And he's 32 years old. So, if they don't win next year, and I think you bring up a very good point. So, again, there's rumors that he's going to go to the Clippers. And don't say that, don't think the Clippers are, they're an option. Jerry West just joined them as a consultant. And they said that, boy, that killed me when I read that. The logo, my God, first poster I had on the wall as a Laker joining the Clippers.
You know what's weird? They've been trying to get him as a consultant for years. Even probably before he was at Memphis. They've been trying to get him and now they finally did. And I know that irks a lot of Lakers
Oh
fans.
man, it killed me.
Because like you mentioned,
right.
the logo.
That's the first poster
Which,
on my wall.
by the way, for the young generation, the NBA logo, that's Jerry West.
That's right. And people, you know what? It is Jerry West. So I don't know. You know, what do you do if you're
That's
Cleveland?
him on the dribble.
Oh yeah, oh yes. But I'll tell you what, that guy could play in any era. I don't care what anyone says. He was outstanding. Here's the thing, though: if you're the Cavaliers,
well, he played without the 3-point shot.
Imagine how many points he would have had. He got hurt a lot. He had a lot of injuries.
That was
Still,
the problem.
27,000 NBA points. How
Right.
many would he have had if he hadn't had all those injuries?
Right.
But here's the thing: if you're the Cavaliers and you're thinking that he might leave, LeBron James, because right now I'm going to tell you this: it doesn't really matter what moves the Cavaliers make. If they get Paul George, they have to give up Kevin Love. Carmelo Anthony, I don't think is an option. The guy doesn't play any defense. He's a great scorer, but he gives up too much. He's on the wrong side of 30 now. He's 33, 34 years old.
Right.
Lateral, you know what? To defend these Warriors, you have to get out, close out on the shooter. You have to defend. And I just don't see that guy being an option for the Cavaliers moving forward. So, Scott, I think you bring up a very good point. What's LeBron going to do next summer? Because if they don't win next year, I don't think he's going to hang around. Now, if he gets Paul George there, that's, maybe, but you have to give up Kevin Love, who, by the way, had a great finals, but it was very quiet. People are like, we need more out of him. In the first game, he had 21 points and 15 rebounds.
I know. And people forget about that.
What else do you want from him? That's what, the guy's not really a stretch guy, but still, he played as good as well as he could.
See, that's the problem with players like Kevin Love. They're not flashy. So the non-flashy players that get the 21 and 15, they go unnoticed because they didn't get the flashy slam dunk.
Or the 5 3-pointers, And this game is played. My son and I talk about this all the time. It's a much.
15 rebounds in an NBA championship game?
Solid.
Beyond solid.
I just talked to Cibola head coach Ray Rodriguez yesterday. Him and I are very, very good friends. And we talked about it. I said, Coach, man, look at the way this game is played now. The game is almost the elimination of the big man. If you're a big man, you got to be able to stretch.
Right.
And so it's just a different game now. And I'm telling you, the way this game is played right now, these Golden State Warriors can win the next 2 championships. They're all under 20, under 30. All of those guys are under 30. Now, somebody gets hurt, attrition, chemistry. Iguodala might leave. That would hurt. But I still think they can overcome that with the players they have. I really do. Now, that would hurt if they lost Andre Iguodala. That would hurt their bench. But I still think they could overcome that. And if they stay together and play the way they're playing, they can win the next 2 championships easily. Got to touch on something here as we go to Holly Holm. What a way to break a 3-match losing streak. Well, Mike and I talked about that on Saturday. It was very early. The fight was very early, and Beth Correa, they had talked about it. I read this. I was just about to go online to watch it, and it was already over that quick. They had talked about the referee had mentioned that they better start mixing it up. It was kind of, Holly Holm has turned into kind of a very cautious fighter. I understand why. I understand. But they didn't mix it up very much in the second round. In the third round, she landed one of those spectacular, and Correa was taunting her. I watched it on YouTube. It was kind of hard to see because the way it was distorted, you couldn't see the whole picture. But I actually, in the second round, heard boos. Right. They were not mixing it up enough. Yeah. So she landed one of those awesome kicks that she knocked out Ronda Rousey with in kind of a half punch because the referee was in there. No, that wasn't a half punch. She got her? It was kind of distorted. I didn't see it. The one, I actually saw that part undistorted. And when I saw it in 3 different angles, undistorted, that was not a half punch. That was a full. The Holly Holm one, when she knocked her down, that was kind of a half slap. But the one the other day, after she was going like this and saying, come on, that was a kick and boom. Oh, solid. Solid. The punch is what put her down. So, I think or put her out, I should say. Going forward, she's lost, you mentioned, she had a 3-fight losing streak and a big win against Beth Correa. So Mike and I were speculating on Saturday who's next for Holly Holm, and it might be Cyborg. It might be Cyborg. Now, she'd have to move up to 145 to fight. Nobody wants to fight Cyborg. Jermaine Durandamy was supposed to schedule to fight Cyborg. She had to have surgery. How do you turn down your championship? Not to fight Cyborg. Well, Durandamy had to have surgery on her hand. In all fairness, I don't know if that part's come out yet, but she did have to have surgery. Well, if that's the case, then that changes a lot of things. Because all I've heard is, she wants no part of Cyborg. That could be it too, though. Hence, she gave up the title. It's like,
why do you give up a title and then you want to fight to get it back? No, that doesn't.
I'll
make
tell you
sense.
what, I saw Durandamy, in training, before the Holly Holm fight, and I'll tell you what, that girl didn't look scared to me of anything, really.
Yeah.
I saw her. Gosh, she looked pretty darn mean, and it looked like she wouldn't back down to anybody. Right now, I think and Mike and I talked about this too on Saturday. Does Holm have to have one more fight before she'd fight Cyborg? Mike thinks they ought to make it happen now, because there's that risk that Holly goes into a fight and then loses to loses and then doesn't get that chance. I got to say this, that she's definitely evolved. She's cautious. The three losses, those fighters that she fought, Shevchenko, Miesha Tate, and Durandamy, kind of exposed her a little bit, I thought. Exposed her ground game, which is still a work in progress. Now, she's a great boxer, but they kind of waited, okay, let her throw the left, and then bam, bam, we'll counter. So I think she went back to her drawing board with her coaches, who are very good, and I think she developed a good plan for Correa. She's an Albuquerquean, man. We want her to win every single time.
And the thing about her, the one thing that I liked when she won, and that's why I say it was a full-blown punch, she wasn't yay jumping around like she had in the past. She looked like she was ready to fight again. She had the meanest look after a fight that I'd ever seen her have.
Which she isn't a mean person.
No, she's not. That's what I'm saying. To see that, I think maybe that's what the coaches instilled in her the most. And the cautiousness, I think the cautiousness went both ways, because I think Correa didn't want any part of her either.
No, she said she did. She was going to knock her out, but when it came down to it, she didn't try to do that. So moving forward, I hope that Holm does fight Cyborg. I think that'd be an excellent fight for her, and hopefully she gets back in that title contention. She's still ranked number 5. They read the rankings, I believe, was on 610 yesterday, and she's still at number 5, in spite of those 3 losses. So that's not a bad place.
If I'm not mistaken, I heard the ranking. I think Ronda Rousey's still at number 3, and she's not even fighting technically anymore.
Well, it's kind of funny the way she got exposed her last couple of fights, against Holly Holm and against Amanda Nunes. She really, the bully got exposed. After Holly Holm, nobody was afraid of her no more.
We'll take a quick break, come back with one last segment here on the Sports Desk.
Proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this? Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog! Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened?
Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never.
Hoops New Mexico Basketball Courts is coming to Albuquerque soon. 10 full basketball courts and a whole lot more. For more information, contact Dan Serrano at hoopsnm@aybl.com.
Don't forget, every Proview Network sporting event is on sale at our DVD store. Go to www.proviewNetworks.com to buy your DVD today.
Hey Lobo fans, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Samantha.
Jaguar Land Rover Albuquerque has been a family-owned business since 1988. The 2017 Jaguar F-Pace has been named the winner of the 2017 World Car of the Year and World Car Design of the Year.
Land Rover's signature terrain response system is flawless against any curveball New Mexico weather can throw at you.
We have a class-leading extended warranty on all Jags and Land Rovers and one of the greatest pre-owned inventories in the state of New Mexico.
Call 505-797-3600 to schedule a test drive.
And we are back here on the Sports Desk. Our final segment, Scott Coletti along with Ed Nunez. Alden Iowani, our fine director, doing everything here at Proview. And let's talk now very quickly. College World Series, Oregon State winners bracket on the upper bracket. They only beat LSU 13-1 yesterday. Cal State Fullerton, who beat my Long Beach State 49ers in the Super Regional last week, they were eliminated by Florida State, and it'll be LSU and Florida State in the losers bracket. And you've still got TCU, Texas A&M in the other losers bracket. Louisville against Florida. That going on today.
Gosh, I can't believe, we're playing baseball.
Josh Brown, a big Florida fan. He wears the Florida
he's always
cap
got
always
Florida
proudly.
hat on. So, no, it's been some great baseball in the College World Series. It really has.
So now we'll talk some local baseball. Before we go to the Lobos, we'll talk about Trevor Rogers, drafted very highly.
I read the story in the Albuquerque Journal. He was very nervous when he got drafted, and they by the Marlins, and he was very nervous even when he was buttoning his shirt. So Scott, we talked about him at length during the baseball season, how many radar guns were out there when he pitched. This kid brings it at 95. He's got movements, a left-hander, should be an outstanding pro prospect.
Absolutely, and I know I saw his tweet the day of the draft. He said, "Today my dream becomes a reality," and I know he said he was nervous. He was excited at the same time.
You imagine getting up there with the commissioner. You're at the Major League Baseball draft, and the commissioner is calling your name. You imagine how you're 17, 18 years old. Imagine how you feel. You just graduated from high school. You got butterflies in your stomach. This is a huge forum, huge stage. You're from Carlsbad. And you imagine the moment for that kid. When I read it, I was very excited for him.
The Lobos had great representation. The flip side, they're going to be a little bit gutted for next year. So Ray Birmingham might find himself in more of a rebuild mode than he thought. But Luis Gonzalez, he was on the radar to be drafted the entire year and drafted by the Chicago White Sox, 3rd round, 87th pick, and no surprise there.
No, I'm not sure.
I think the only surprise is that he went lower than a lot of people thought, and I don't know how much his stuff at the end of the season had to do with that, but I'll tell you what, the White Sox got themselves a heck of a player.
I'm not sure what round he was slotted at as far as salary-wise, but you're right.
Originally, all season long, Coach B was talking about him being a first-round pick, so obviously he dropped below that.
Well, he's going to concentrate on center field. He also pitches, but he's not going to do any pitching in the majors. So, you know what? I loved him.
He's an outstanding defensive center fielder, by the way, which a lot of people don't talk about. I've seen him make some plays that he had absolutely no business catching up to the ball, number one, running into the wall, doing flips. I mean, he is athletic. So he's not just one of those guys that likes to hit. He'll lay it on the line defensively.
Well, the other thing is, too, is that you know this better than anyone, is the wind blowing that thing all over Santa Ana Star Field. He has to adjust to the wind, and so he is an outstanding fielder. And I really believed, and you did too, when the Lobos lost him for the tournament, it hurt him. It really did, because then you lost Jack Zellner. First and third
that's the
hitters.
Other one we'll talk about.
So,
Jack Zellner also drafted, and he was projected to be drafted. 9th round, 263rd pick by the Phillies. And, this is a guy, contact hitter personified.
Well, they certainly missed him when he broke that hand, got hit by a pitch. And Zellner, and, I think hitting behind him was Jared Mang or Stadjahar. So, when you went up there as a pitcher and in the conference, and you had Zellner, Jared, who could you pitch around? Gonzalez, Mang, Zellner, and Stadjahar. So,
when you had all those guys healthy, you really couldn't pitch around anybody because you'd intentionally walked one. I'd seen the one guy intentionally walk to get to Mang, and Mang would hit a home run.
Jared Mang, and you could hear his mother, by the way, "Come on, Mango!" She used to make me laugh every time I heard that voice. But and I say that affectionately because she's a big fan, man. But Jared Mang mashed the ball all over the field too.
And the other guy to talk about offensively, Carl Stadjahar. He's probably the biggest immediate loss for the Lobos because I'm sure Coach Birmingham Birmingham was hoping maybe he'd come back next year.
I'll tell you what, you mentioned that, Ray Birmingham, who hopefully, Scott, we can get on in the next couple of weeks. But you're right, he's got some holes in that lineup. And then Austin Bell and another player also, that was Andre V. Hill, not Andre V. Hill.
No,
Austin
it was
Bell
the La Cueva connection. Austin Bell and,
I can't remember.
My mind went blank here.
But he lost 2 transfers as well.
And a couple of guys who contributed late in the season, so they transferred. And then the other guy, I don't know if we have a slide on him, but Tyler Stevens, drafted by the Angels.
Well, again, you know what? Coach Birmingham has done a great job here. There's no question in building the program.
Oh, there it is.
Now he's got to start all over again.
So Tyler Stevens, what a performer he was.
Well, I'll tell you what, look at those uniforms. How many sets do they have? But yeah, Tyler Stevens was Coach Birmingham really relied on him for heavy innings.
Yeah, that's the anthracite look, by the way. And yeah, that's the one that you can't read the numbers. So
right.
That's one of the sharper looking unis, but it's a broadcaster's nightmare.
What, they have about 4 sets?
Probably 4 to 5 sets. Yeah,
I loved them. I loved every one of them.
Summing it up, as we have a little over 30 seconds to go. Man, we've filled an hour with a lot of odds and ends, huh?
You know what? Just talking about stuff that I'd forgotten about, but you brought back some memories, and you rekindled that flame in this brain of mine, man. I don't know where I got some of that, but yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, Chet Walker reference. How do you like that?
Bob Love, Norm Van Lier. Yeah.
Old Chicago Bulls. Well, for Alden Iowani and for Ed Nunez, I'm Scott Coletti. We will do this again next week on the Sports Desk.